Hello and welcome to my Nutrient Nirvana channel. In this episode, backed by popular demand, I'm very happy to be joined once again by my favourite natural health researcher, Clive De Carle. How are you, Clive?
Thank you, Paul. Yeah, I'm great. Yeah, really good. How about
Brilliant.
you?
Not so bad, thank you very much. I did have a couple of months ago, I had a very strange episode where I was feeling very lethargic, low energy. I had some sinus issues, and this went on for about 4 or 5 days. And at that time, I remember reading that a certain mobile network, 4+1, was being switched on all over the country. So I don't know if there was a correlation there at all, but I do find it slightly suspicious. Um, what would you say about that?
Put a notice on a local notice board saying, I felt this. Anybody else feel it? Contact me.
Yeah, yeah, I have spoken to a few people, and they've experienced similar sinus issues, which, as I understand it, is a result, or can be a result of radiation poisoning. So um, there we go.
Well, in the nicest possible way, they are trying to kill us.
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much. Anyway, I wanted to start on a positive note. So let's talk about solutions, Clive. What's on your radar at the moment in terms of solutions?
Well, at the end of last year, two of my friends and colleagues, we went out to Las Vegas to the world's largest longevity conference.
Mhm.
And talk about large, it was outrageous. It was at the Venetian Hotel. That's the one where they have, in the middle of it, gondolas and people singing, I mean, in the hotel. It was just vast. So there were four stages, big stages. So there were speakers on each stage. The actual event started from 6 in the morning till midnight, three
Wow.
days in a row. And I gave up on the conference itself immediately. It was too boring. I mean, not that it was boring, but I went to the exhibition hall, which is why I went really anyway. And oh my God, there are over 400 exhibitors showing, thousands of all the latest longevity stuff you could possibly think of, from pills to devices. So we had a field day, even with three of us. And the idea was that the three of us would find stuff. Um, we weren't able to go around the whole thing. It was too much. Anyway, one of my friends found the first machine that we liked, which was a chair. And we had 10-minute demos on, then another 15 minutes demo. And it was fantastic in a whole host of ways. But it was only when I got it back in the UK and was trying people out on it, other than me and my two friends, did I realize just what I'd got. I had not realized the depth of what this device will do. So 10 minutes is great. Most people seem to get a response within 10 minutes. And the sort of responses I've had, one woman said, "Ooh," she said, "I feel like I've just been shagged." Then
That's
I
good.
had a guy, and I think you've seen the video of the champion kickboxer or something, and he'd been stabbed through the chest. And as he was bleeding to death, he had that transitional time. He says, you get 10 seconds where all the cares of the world were gone. He had complete release from all cares and worries and so on. And he said that was 3 years prior, that he hadn't felt that sense of peace um, since he was transitioning from life to death, since spending 10 minutes on the chair.
Wow.
And what happened was that as he was bleeding to death on the way to hospital, and checking out, he saw a bobble round his wrist with a strand of his daughter's hair attached. And he said, as he looked at the strand of hair, he saw his daughter's birth. And at various stages up the hair, he saw various stages of his daughter's life. And then when he got to the tip of the hair, he saw his daughter looking into a black hole with his face in it. And at that moment, he said he got a rush of energy through the soles of his feet. through his whole body, and he realized he was going to make it to hospital.
Wow, that's incredible.
And he said he hadn't felt that feeling since sitting on a chair for 10 minutes. You know, how crazy is that? So what the chair looks like, it looks like a sort of garden recliner, really. It's one of those sort of anti-gravity chairs or whatever, which you can just lean back and your feet go up, and it's very comfy. And so it's very lightweight. And built into it are what I think are effectively 16 subwoofers.
Mm-hmm.
So you lie down. Some of them are sort of, you put some headphones on, it tells you what's happening. The introduction one, the 10-minute one that most people get the results with, you just put some headphones on, you put a blindfold on, and you lay back and you experience it. And to give it some sort of description, when you first turn it on, you begin to feel that you're moving as if your body is floating on the chair. And at one point, it feels like you're floating. You might slide right off the chair. You hold the armrest, and you realize you're not moving at all. Then it reverses and sends you. You feel like you're floating up the chair, and because there are 16 of these subwoofer things, you can get it sort of ripple up and down your body and do nice physical things, and then it stops. And what happens is, from floating, suddenly you're in this most gorgeous drop where it's silent and it's a stillness. I had somebody who told me she'd been meditating for 20 years. She said she hadn't felt that stillness before.
Wow.
And it's so people in deep trauma get somehow, in so many cases, really a dramatic release of stuff. I've had people cry, had people in fits of giggles, right across the board. And there are lots of programs you can run. So you can run ones that are very, very calming. You can run ones that are energizing, ones for sleep, ones for children. But the children's one, for instance, one of them is that the children go on a space adventure. And you can imagine, because of the effects this chair can viscerally give you, at one point, you go through an asteroid belt, and then suddenly the engines of the rocket stop. You're on a mission to save some planet somewhere, and you have to breathe. The children have to breathe the rocket into the station, sort of thing. And so it teaches them breathing techniques, and the breathing techniques combined with the chair help enormously. And anyway, it's a cool thing. Then the second device I bought was also a chair, and this is quite different. It's using still electromagnets, essentially, to do what it's doing, but it's a libido chair. A
What, sorry?
libido
Oh, a libido chair, really?
chair.
Interesting.
And so what you do is you sit on it, and there's a little tiny center to the chair, and you sit on it so your perineum is absolutely spot on, and you feel it when it starts, and often people, as you turn it on, people go, "Ooh," like that. And there are 3 levels to it, so you can set it how dramatic you want it. And basically, you sit on the chair for 28 minutes, and it's nothing painful or anything, and it delivers 10,000 pelvic floor exercises.
Wow.
I wasn't planning to do 10,000 in my life,
No.
right? So what that does is everything down there suddenly works better. Vaginas get tightened, erectile dysfunction hopefully is positively fixed, constipation, bladder control. Until I got this device, I had no idea how many people actually piss themselves when they laugh or cough, or I hadn't realized how many people have got a bit of an issue. So you can tighten all that up.
Yeah.
And so then I've got a couple of other machines. But basically, what I've come to realize is that, I have the Secret Health Club, So first of all, I thought, right, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to set up Secret Health Club branches, could be in the house, could be at the premises, whatever, and have the latest, greatest stuff that doesn't waste time. You know, who wants to come 1,000 times, whatever, as quickly as it possibly can, with 100% safety, etc. That's, you know, the aim. So I realized that I have found some devices which are beyond what I thought was credible before December. You know, I knew there were great machines out there, but anyway, let me tell you a story. I was on one of the stands and I saw a bioresonance machine.
Mm-hmm.
And oh, it looked so nice. I mean, you know, boys who like knobs and dials. Oh, it was really nice. Anyway, I went up to the lady on the stand and said, tell me about it. She said, oh, well, you know, the technology is fantastic, super accurate, you know, gives you a readout in seconds, and we recommend 45 minutes. I said, sorry, you've lost me there. 45, yeah, well, you got to make money, she said. So what happens with the bioresonance machines is it's a computer. It does that in a few seconds, but they show you pictures of your liver and your kidneys and what have you, going deeper and deeper, deeper. It's all bullshit. It's so you can charge whatever they charge. Total bullshit.
Yeah.
When you want to travel abroad, you know, it's checking through all the airlines. No, it's not. It's hooking you in.
Yeah. So how does one get to try one of these chairs, Clive?
Well, there are two ways, really. One is to send me an email. info@clivedecarle.com would be fine. And express an interest. And we can tell you, at the moment, I've only got one of each chair, but I'm planning to buy quite a number more because I'm offering a franchise situation. So people can be the Secret Health Club. So, you know, behind a club, you can do things you can't do in public, so to speak. And let's say they're on the smallest budget possible. Well, if they can get the credit, they could lease one of the machines. They cost about 10 grand and 15 grand, respectively. So how many uses do you need to go for to pay back? You've got 10,000 quid a go. What's 2,000 goes? Now, how many, you know, if somebody was lucky enough to have a throughput, they're already a hairdresser or doesn't matter what, but they've already got the throughput all the time. Only a few months to pay it back, or they could lease it rather than buy it. And if they can afford more, then they can get a second machine, or they can come right in and have I've got 5 machines that are in the package, which I'll blow you away. Well, you know, every single one of them is extraordinary and safe and effective. You know, you've heard safe and effective overused in some other context, I think, as far as I remember. But nevertheless, as I say, you know, I didn't realize that this technology existed.
You're doing a couple of festivals in the summer. Will you be taking the chair with you at all?
Yes.
Oh, brilliant. Okay. I think one of the festivals is called Sounds Beautiful, is it? Is that the one?
Yeah.
I'm going myself, yeah.
Yeah, and there's WTF. I don't know what that would stand for.
Okay. Brilliant. Okay, Clive. I'd like to look at some of your new supplements because it's been probably at least the best part of a year since we last spoke. And since then, you've released quite a lot of new supplements on your website, and they look very unique and exceptional. So perhaps we could start by looking at Panaceum. That's one that really grabbed my attention. I remember you spoke to Spencer Feldman, who I really like watching and listening to. And that's where it kind of all started. So could you tell the listeners about Panaceum, what's in it and how it works?
Yeah. And, you know, I learn a lot from Spencer. And he was the one who first introduced me to the concept of the use of oligosaccharides, certain types of sugars. And, we can eat yogurt, we can eat unpasteurized kimchi, whatever you like. And that's great. We're putting friendly bacteria into us. But actually, what would be better would be the original bacteria that we got from mum and she got from grandma, etc. If we could rekindle that, because that's tailor-made for us rather than a cow.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you take oligosaccharides, which are the ingredients in Panaceum, it works similarly in a way to fulvic minerals, where the human body doesn't use the mineral yttrium, which is in fulvic minerals, but the bacteria loves it for lunch. So actually, Panaceum and fulvic minerals are both really useful to get your microbiome immune system back, because with all of us, it's decimated. Just if we have a cup of tea, as I'm doing here, I mean, I filter my water, but let's say that this was chlorinated water, we're killing ourselves with every shower. Did you see the video I made about the 3 glasses of tap water?
I did, yeah. That was a while ago. The chlorine test, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was scary. That was scary. That was scary. Yeah.
I mean, put your fingers or a slice of potato in chlorinated water, and the chlorine's gone into you and the potato like right away in seconds. It was. So if you have a bath or a shower,
Sure.
up until I did that experiment, I had no idea how serious it was.
And just if you're listening to this, a tablespoon, I believe, of vitamin C powder in your bath water will neutralize the chlorine. That's right, isn't it, Clive?
It's absolutely right. And if you can smell the chlorine when you're on the bath, if you put in the vitamin C beforehand and run it, almost immediately the smell the smell hopefully won't be there. On my website, I do a shower filter which has vitamin C in it, and I've had loads of people tell me their skin improved.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've been doing it now for a couple of years. I've got a vitamin C shower filter, but I've been using vitamin C in bath water now for a couple of years. And the first time I did it, I just couldn't believe the difference. It's just remarkable. So, and it's really good for your skin as well, isn't it?
And the other one, if somebody's in an area that's got fluoride in the water, then you want a tub of borax, and you put a teaspoonful whatever in the water, and then it'll completely knock out the fluoride. But it's hard to get borax in England these days, but you can buy it from America.
Yeah, great. Okay.
There it is. Something else.
Tell us about pine pollen, Clive. You've started to sell pine pollen in liquid form. Is that right?
Yeah. I used to collect pine pollen literally by putting a plastic bag around a pine tree that's just about to shed its pollen and shaking it, because it's good for energy and testosterone. I mean, I do 2 different types of pine pollen from different trees. One's for men, one's for women. You could take either, but actually it is gender specific. And a lot of people really notice the difference. This is pine pollen tincture. And so I teamed up. I was incredibly lucky to meet these Canadian guys who are pine pollen experts, but on small scale. It's not, we probably take most of their stuff, I guess. I don't know. But I did a video which people can watch with these 2 guys. And pine pollen is fantastic. If libido is an issue, if energy is an issue, and it tastes nice. I mean, if you happen to like alcoholic tinctures, which I generally do, I've tried lots of pine pollens over the years. I've got several in bottles, and most of them don't actually taste very nice. These ones taste great, I think.
Okay, sounds good. What about Zeniplex?
Yeah, well, this again is a Spencer product, and he's got several answers to certain issues. For instance, I think most people know about a coffee enema, right? You can take a coffee enema and you detoxify with it, and it has all sorts of good benefits. But, who's got the time to do that necessarily? But if before bed you put a coffee enema suppository up your bum, which is one of the products, it's dead easy, no discomfort, and gentle, easy, no problem. Then he does another one, also a suppository, which is the equivalent of the liver gallbladder flush. Have you ever done the liver gallbladder flush?
No, I
It's
haven't.
horrible, right? You start drinking, there are various ways to do it, but you start drinking things like apple juice a lot, then you drink like I don't know, half a pint of olive oil or something, then you take Epsom salts, and what happens is people discover that these green or brown soft stones come out of the gallbladder. And the claim is, because a lot of people say they feel better after it, the claim is that those were there all the time, and now what you've just done is flush them out. I think it's the other way around, that you do all these things with the apple juice and the olive oil and so on, which forms these stones, but in excreting them, maybe giving your gallbladder and liver a bit of a massage. I've no idea, but I don't think what they say is happening is really happening. Anyway, you can do the same without any unpleasantness with the suppository. There's one called Glittermins, and
Yeah.
yeah. So there are a whole number of detoxification products, most of which, other than vitamin C and charcoal, some of the obvious ones, I've learned about from Spencer, because has really, really studied it. So the thing is that, let's say you're detoxifying from some chemical. Now, we might assume that, well, you take this substance and also that's it done. But very often what happens is you get to a first stage of detoxification, but now you've made chemical changes to the toxin. And maybe it's better than it was, but it's maybe still now a secondary toxin, which needs dealing with in a different way. For instance, let's say you've got a fat soluble toxin. You might be able to take a fat busting supplement, and now it's turned to being water soluble, and you've got a second thing you have to deal with to complete the process. I mean, a good example is MSM sulfur. Now, MSM sulfur sulfates things. So let's say you've got toxic metal poisoning, mercury poisoning, lead poisoning. If you take sulfur, it sulfates the metal, turning into a metal sulfate. And the wonderful thing about sulfates is they're water soluble. Now you can pee them out. So what people do is they're hesitant to take the dose that I might recommend. So they take half as much, quarter as much. Let's start slow, right? So what happens is they've mobilized some of the lead or the mercury into the bloodstream, but they haven't taken enough to get it out the body. They haven't fully sulfated it. So now they feel worse, and it just goes right back in again. And so for some things, the dosage is important. And with MSM sulfur, if somebody takes it and they feel worse, take more. You've only done half the job.
I was going to ask you about your MSM sulfur, because I've tried various types of sulfur in the past, and nothing compares to your MSM sulfur. When did you first hear about sulfur? And if you don't mind me asking, where do you source your particular organic sulfur from?
Well, if you team up with my franchise operation, I can tell you that.
Okay.
It took me a long time. I mean, my dad always used to say, look, start with the best, go for the expensive stuff. It's probably more likely to work, right?
Yeah.
So there's one brand of MSM from Canada, which is super famous. They say they're the top dog, and I believed it at the time, seemed credible. So I started stocking that, and, nobody particularly said, oh, that's great. Anyway, then I interviewed this guy who said his sulfur is way better, and he showed me how to test sulfur. How you use a microscope, not even an expensive one, but you can look at the crystalline structure and various things, and you can see how it's been made. Is it powdered? You don't want that. You want crystallized. But there are exceptions to this. But anyway, he was generous enough to teach me how to tell good sulfur from bad. And then I realized I could buy the stuff that he'd already tested from him, which is what I did. And yeah, it's probably more expensive maybe than others, but nevertheless, it works. And when I switched from the Canadian one to this one, which was 15 years ago or more, suddenly loads of people were writing in telling me about the virtues of sulfur.
It's
So,
magic. It's magic dust. I would say that it's number one. It's an aphrodisiac from what I've discovered. And when we've spoken previously, I've mentioned that for a number of years I've suffered with Raynaud's syndrome. When I say suffer, it's not been a major problem for me. It's just when it's very cold outside, the tips of my fingers will turn blue. And we've discussed this before, and you recommended iodine at the time, which I believe had an effect on it, definitely. And magnesium was mentioned to me by Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride, because the ventricles in the tips of the fingers are spasming, as I understand it. So I believe both those minerals have made a difference. But this winter, my Raynaud's has been much better. And I'm putting that down, I think, to your MSM sulfur. I think it's really sort of made a huge impact on it.
if you want to knock it out altogether, I'd add the liquid selenium that we've got.
Okay, yeah, I've got that as well. I've been doing a drop a day. Maybe I should consider
No, that should be enough.
Yeah, okay. Well, as I say, anyway, I mean, this year I've probably had 2 attacks of Raynaud's, and I've been outside a lot over my allotment, etc., and nothing. So it just goes to show you, doesn't it? Really.
Cool.
Just one last anecdote on that subject. I had about 2 months ago, I spoke to my mother on the phone, and I have a bit of an up and down relationship with her. And on this particular occasion, it didn't go so well. And I got off the phone to her after a bit of an argument. And within 5 to 10 seconds of speaking to her, it was there, which
Wow.
I thought was very interesting.
Well,
So,
if if a stress triggers you, the body's response to stress is to burn magnesium. Maybe at that moment you were low on magnesium,
okay, that's
or
also,
maybe you just need more iodine.
yeah.
Have you tested your body temperature?
I was up until recently, yeah. I interviewed Phil Mickans, who suggested that I do exactly that, which I did for a while. And I spoke to you, and you said, try and up your iodine for a certain period. I think I was taking about 5 to 6 drops a day of iodine for 6 weeks. And when I first started taking my temperature, it was under the average, but it did slowly increase while I was doing that. So,
Well, you could test it again and see how much you really need.
okay, yeah.
You don't have to do it every day. I don't. I just take a whack of it.
No, I haven't been doing it every day for a while now. I usually do about 6 or 7 drops once a week.
Oh, well, in that case, I suggest you try it for a short time, 2, 3, 4 weeks. Try taking twice that much, 3 times that much.
Really, 3 times that
Yeah.
much? Well, I remember you saying before that doctors nowadays, they measure iodine in terms of in micrograms. But
Yeah,
back
yeah,
in the day, the doctors 150 years ago were doing it in milligrams.
exactly. They were using much bigger doses than I'm suggesting.
Mm. And
Quite often.
if you're using, I don't know if megadose is the correct way of putting it, but if you're doing large doses of iodine, there is no real danger, would you say?
No, look, you can drown in water.
Mhm.
You know, iodine is immensely powerful, and you want to get it right with every supplement that we talk about. But with iodine specifically, it is really good to know what you're playing with.
Mm.
If you mix it with vitamin C, they'll neutralize each other.
Mm.
Some people put it on the skin, and if somebody is considering doing that, put 1 drop on first. 1 person in 1,000 it burns,
Mhm.
and they're very angry.
Mm.
So learn. But iodine, on the other hand, is the answer for most people when it comes to menopause, when it comes to brain fog, when it comes to dry skin.
Mm.
And a year's supply costs 25 quid or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just ridiculous, isn't it? So they don't want you to know because it costs 25 quid.
Exactly. Talking of mixing supplements together, I read recently that fat-soluble vitamins fight each other for absorption. Now, I've noticed that a lot of supplement companies sell D3 and K2 in the same capsule. So would that be a problem, do you think?
No, I mean, if you're taking a fat-soluble vitamin, take it with some oil.
Right.
Roughly at the same time, a drop or two of olive oil in your salad. If you take, I mean, find a way to ingest some oil, butter, cream, animal fats, whatever it is, or if necessary, avocado, or whatever. Eat fat with fat.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Just going back to your new supplements, thiamine is one of them, and I find this a very interesting material. Have you seen Elliot Overton's research with
Yeah, I've
regards?
interviewed Elliot, and
Oh, have you? I missed that one.
I've got a lot of time for Elliot. I mean, he's studious and really knows his stuff.
Yeah.
And I there's a book about thiamine, vitamin B1, which you can buy. It costs about 75 quid, by Lonsdale, Dr. Lonsdale, which is outrageously interesting because
Okay.
B1 is the answer for so many things. It's incredible. If you take any B vitamin, you want to take it with a B complex.
Right.
You don't want to knock yourself out of balance.
Mhm.
But if you're low on B1, you might need 6 times what somebody else might need who's not low on it. And you can find your own level. So, for instance, if you know somebody who is anorexic, give them B1. It'll probably fix them. Anorexia is basically a B1 deficiency, it turns out.
Wow. Okay.
Somebody's got neurological issues like tingling in their hands and feet. They've got neuropathy. Maybe they're diabetic. Maybe now they haven't got enough feeling in their feet and hands or whatever. Vitamin B1.
Brilliant. Okay.
And people are in agony with neuropathy, peripheral neuropathy, through lack of B1.
Okay.
Every diabetic needs to understand vitamin B1.
Well, as I understand it, Elliot's been saying that if Parkinson's patients, for example, they've been megadosing with B1 and their symptoms and basically their Parkinson's, the progress of it has completely stopped while they're taking the B1, which I find very interesting, particularly as my father had Parkinson's disease quite bad. So
It would probably be safe to say that all the neurological issues, B1 deficiency is going to probably be part of major cause, And it's cheap as chips, actually. It's not like it's expensive. And over the years, I've been studying B1 for a long time. Similarly to Elliot, we've got blends which we think are the way to do it because there are lots of different types of B1. So both of us have developed what we think is the idea, the fat soluble version, the water soluble, all the different versions, because just like magnesium, there are so many different versions, and pretty much all of them almost work, but some are really beneficial to certain groups of people. I mean, the magnesium blend that I do, I deliberately put taurine in it, the amino acid taurine, as magnesium taurinate, because if somebody's vegan, sooner or later, well, I don't want to be predictive, but they're in danger of eye problems because you need taurine for eyes, and it's Taurus, the bull, taurine. You can only get it either by fermenting vegetables in a way that creates taurine or animal products. So we've got a vegan, everything we can do vegan just because it gives a wider audience. We can, assume it's as effective as meat. So our amino acids and the taurinate in 1 or 2 products, even vegans can eat a bull.
Brilliant. What about niacin, Clive? You've now got a niacin product available in your shop?
Yeah, same deal. It's a blend of different sort of niacins and niacinamides and hexaniacinates and stuff. And it's vitamin B3. Again, take it with B vitamins. So B3 is about happiness. B6, B9, B12, they're about it as well. But B6 and B3 B3, you maybe need a lot of it. So if somebody is schizophrenic, manic depressive, bipolar, whatever, they should be considering researching vitamin B3. So one of the first stories I heard about it must have come out of whenever Alcoholics Anonymous started. Bill W. was one of the founders, and he discovered niacin. So he had maybe schizophrenia, I don't know exactly, but he was visiting a psychiatrist. And the psychiatrist, Dr. Abraham Hoffer from Canada, said, look, I think you're vitamin deficient. Take a bunch of vitamins, but start taking niacin in ever-increasing doses. And within, I think, 10 days or 3 weeks, he was fixed. But he needed a lot, like maybe 3 grams of it. You know, if you take pure niacin, if you take more than, let's say, 50 milligrams or 25 milligrams, you might experience a flush. First time I tried it, I didn't know this and took a gram. So I'm on my way up to London. I'm just taking a gram of niacin, pure niacin, and I'm in the car and I realize I'm having a heart attack. I've gone bright purple and my heart feels like it's beating out of its chest, and there's a lay-by, and I realize that I can die there, you know, literally. And then I suddenly remember the bloody niacin. Then I remember the flushing effect. And oh, fuck, you know, I'm just done. After about 10, 15 minutes, I realized, you know, it was calming down again. Anyway, so there's the real niacin, which has the flush, which if anybody has the arterial problem that the doctors give you statins for, you want the flushing type, and it will balance everything out and fix the arteries, hopefully. But then there's a non-flushing type, a few non-flushing types. So in my blend, there's a little bit of the flushing one, because actually a little bit of flush is quite beneficial. It cleans the arteries, makes the blood run a bit faster. And then 95% or something is the non-flushing types. So Bill W. got up to 3 grams or whatever, but you can experiment. And if somebody's not happy, they can start with 1 capsule. 3 grams would probably be 6 or something. You know, some people have needed 10. There's a famous story, also another Abraham Hoffa story, where this woman goes into these deep, dark depressions. When she's like that, maybe for days and days and days, she'll just sit in the corner of the room and rock. Totally uncommunicative, just rocking, rocking, rocking. And they got her up to 10 grams of niacin, and she's suddenly back at the kitchen table as if nothing had happened.
Wow. Okay.
But most people are not going to, those are ridiculous doses, but, you know, being unhappy at a desperate level is worth desperate measures. And, you know, to my understanding, nobody in the world ever has died from a vitamin. Other things, yes, but apparently not from vitamins. It's really difficult because
there's a few people on YouTube who will tell you that taking too much vitamin D can be very toxic for you.
And there's some truth to that. But of course, there's vitamin D and there's vitamin D. You know, where was this vitamin D sourced? How did they make it? How natural is it? Yeah, I recommend, and I have done since I pretty much started, that for 20 quid online, you can get a vitamin D test. So test yourself, see if you need it. A month later, after you've tried X dose, test yourself again. Are you too high, too low, not enough? You know, whatever. And okay, it costs 20 quid every time you want to try it. But, you know, with some things you don't need to test yourself, because you take too much vitamin C or magnesium, you got diarrhea, you know. You don't need to test. Do you have to test to see if you're low on it? No, everybody is. I am, you are. Everybody is, because of stresses and strains and poor food and all that stuff. So sometimes it's really useful to test. You know, really useful. But other times, well, what's the point? You go to a doctor, I want to be tested for magnesium. They'll test your blood. And it may be high, it may be low. That's irrelevant. It's not about how much is in the blood. That's irrelevant to the story. How much is in the cells is what you need to know. But if you're low on magnesium, you know, because you got muscle cramps, twitches, heart attacks, migraines, headaches, constipation, whatever. You pick your own symptom. And there are loads more, as you know, restless leg, heart arrhythmia, where your heart races for no reason, depression, sleep problems. You don't need a test. If you got one of those, chances are you'd be worth trying some magnesium, but in the right dose. Not 2 capsules. Some people need 8. I take 8 a day.
Yeah, we make a blend ourselves of magnesium capsules, and it's probably our best seller, I think, now.
Well, it should be, because it's you could argue that vitamin C is more important, but for me personally, if I could only have one of those 2, I'd go for magnesium.
Me too. There is some what's the word I'm looking for? There's some speculation about vitamin C, ascorbic acid. Some people say that it's not really vitamin C; it's just a component of vitamin C. And there are also people out there that will say, "Oh, you shouldn't take too much vitamin C because it results in oxalate damage in the body." I don't know if you've come across that.
Well, the last thing about the kidney damage is rubbish. What my research says, that's absolute rubbish. I mean,
Okay.
of course, the people who don't want you to understand ascorbic acid will say, "Oh, it's not real, like in a fruit." Well, they're right. Obviously, it's not. It's made in a big factory. It is a component. But I know people who've tried to cure XYZ with camu camu and acerola cherry and the natural versions. I've never met anybody who did it, who actually took had a dramatic result with dramatic doses of vitamin C. People who were meant to die tomorrow didn't and came back to health. So the proof that ascorbic acid is fantastic. I mean, if you're going to take ascorbic acid, well, might be a sensible idea to occasionally eat a bit of fruit, right? How about a red pepper or a tomato? Get your vitamin C from eating at least some decent food with vitamin C in it. And my feeling is that's all that you need, because if you're doing it with camu camu powder or something, you couldn't possibly shovel that much down your throat. You couldn't do it. You'd be choking.
Yeah.
It would be impossible. But ascorbic acid is powerful stuff. 1/4 teaspoonful in a glass of water, 1/2 teaspoonful, maybe all you need, but you might need it every 6 minutes. You've seen the video, Reverse Pneumonia in 3 hours.
Dr. Andrew Saul, yeah.
Exactly. He takes 1/2 teaspoonful every 6 minutes. 3 hours later, his bacterial pneumonia has stopped, But it's not easy to take that much vitamin C every 6 minutes. It's not easy. But it's always the IV vitamin C. I went to the dentist the other day and I had an IV vitamin C drip, 50 grams, during the procedure.
How did you feel afterwards?
Well, from the vitamin C, I couldn't tell, but I didn't get an infection. I had 6 implants all at once.
Wow.
6.5 hours of surgery.
Wow.
Yeah.
But
It took me a week to. It was 10 days ago now, so just about talking correctly. But I went to the man that I thought was the best dental surgeon in the country, and it was the sort of things that obviously before they do anything, they always put ozone right in the hole. Then they took my blood, put it in a centrifuge, took out the plasma-rich factor, which is little solid lumps, and each time before they put the implant in, they put my own platelets in there. So it's mega stem cells. They're taking the stem cells, putting them right in there. Then they do various procedures like that, super detailed. And obviously, I didn't have cheap implants. I had zirconium, which is the only sensible way to go, in my opinion. Obviously, to be a surgeon, to know how to use zirconium implants properly is an expensive and time-consuming training process. So very few people who can do it properly. Yes, it cost a bloody fortune. It was, I said, obviously you park your Rolls Royce, your Lamborghini around the corner so that the patients don't see. But it was worth it because, surgery is a dodgy business. And 6 implants, sounds like nothing, but actually mega serious surgery, drilling into your sinus bones and your jawbone, and you don't want that to go wrong. What
No,
1 millimeter too far, and you've had it.
it's a difficult one to fix, isn't it? If you're not able to afford those sort of treatments.
Then it's very unfortunate.
Mm,
Very, very unfortunate. You've got to do the best you can. I mean, I was a victim of criminal dentistry when I was young, and I hung on as long as I possibly could. I made a mistake. I should have gone to a dentist earlier.
right. Okay.
Didn't want to go. In retrospect, I should have gone earlier.
Mm,
But, I'm not having dentures, what anybody says, so to speak. But it got to the point where I could no longer eat.
mm.
I mean, steaks were impossible. It was getting really difficult. And, having a dinner conversation, I'd be taking 4 times longer to chew than everybody else because there were so few teeth left. So I didn't feel I had a choice.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. Have you come across Dr. Morley Robbins on your
I
way?
have.
Right. Okay. So I found his website recently. It's a really good website, and he's written quite a bit about iron deficiency.
Yeah,
And
I'm not sure I totally agree with what he said.
I
What he
wanted
says
to
about
ask you.
magnesium, I really like.
Yeah.
The copper iron thing that he talks about. I haven't studied it nearly the depth that he has. However, there are a few things that he says that I'm just not sure. Yeah, people make conclusions, jump to conclusions sometimes. An association isn't necessary. Anyway, I don't claim to be an expert, and he's way more of an expert on it than I am. But yeah,
I think it's to do with pathways in your gut. So iron can get stuck in the gut if there isn't enough copper present. I did make some notes on this somewhere. It is, as you say, it is very, very complicated. But iron builds up in the gut due to a lack of copper, and that can cause leaky gut syndrome. It can cause SIBO, Crohn's, colitis, etc.
yeah.
And
Well,
then, sorry, go on.
no, I was going to say I've seen copper work. Somebody I know, this must have been almost 20 years ago, he discovered colloidal copper. Now you can make colloidal copper if you've got a pure copper pan. Just boil water and you've made colloidal copper. So he was giving it to everybody because I don't know, it fixed him of something or other. And so it was so cheap to make. He's got to find some bottles from the pub and fill them up and whatever. And until one person ended up in hospital with acute copper poisoning. That one person, that was the last thing this guy. He was already copper toxic. So minerals can be dodgy if you don't know what you're doing. Because if you want to supplement with copper, you want to make absolutely sure that your zinc levels are all right.
I was about to say, yeah, sure, because I haven't got as far into the research to find out what he's suggesting as the remedy for this. But if it's copper supplementation, as you say, surely that's going to affect your zinc levels.
Well, absolutely. So, I used to, I sell zinc by itself, but I also sell zinc and copper. Because some people need the copper, some people don't. And it's one of those subjects that has a lot of complexity, and I haven't studied enough, so a lot of it goes above my head. I wish I knew more. I did a hair mineral analysis last year. It turned out I was really high on copper. I hadn't seen that coming. I was off the charts high on copper, and it related to iron. And funnily enough, my body must have known it because I was craving red meat like that.
Okay.
So increasing, the iron type benefits.
Sure.
Anyway, so yeah, and I never would have guessed it. I don't know what questions to ask that would have elicited oh, you're low on copper. But with many of the other things, iodine, magnesium, there's some that's so obvious, the symptoms, a 5-year-old could ask the questions to discover whether you're low on magnesium. But, like all of us, I'm still learning.
Yeah, me too.
There's a lot to learn.
You never stop learning, do you? It's like learning a new language at times as well, isn't it?
Well, you don't know what you don't know. And so most days I discover something and I go, wow, I hadn't realized how important whatever it is, potassium or something is.
Mm.
One of the interesting things I find about a lot of these substances, magnesium, sulfur, charcoal, um, iodine, potassium, almost all of the minerals explode. From those things I've just mentioned, you can make bombs galore because
Wow.
they're all magnesium, big flash of light for cameras, right?
Mm.
Um, iodine, I'm not going to say what you can, how to make an explosive with that, but I used to make touch explosive and paint it on the headmaster's door handle.
Yeah, we talked about that last time. That
Right,
was
okay, we won't talk about it anymore. And
yeah.
so potassium bombs, sulfur bombs, charcoal, gunpowder,
Mm.
sulfur and charcoal, gunpowder,
Mm.
potassium nitrate, for proper gunpowder. I mean, it just goes on and on. Mercury, you can make mercury formulate, that explodes. They all explode pretty much.
Mm.
And a lot of them, like sodium, for instance, explodes with water. So we are mainly water. So if you eat sodium, if it were pure sodium, you'd burst into flames. Sodium chloride or whatever form we might be
Mm.
taking our sodium in, we don't burst into flames. But, potassium in water bursts into flames. They have to keep sodium and stuff in oil, stop it
Mm.
bursting into flames in the air.
Sure.
So we're dealing with powerful minerals here.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, shall we talk about depression briefly? Because that's one of the most common ailments that I have to deal with my clients and customers. I read an article by Dr. McCullough recently, and he was saying that the last thing you want to do when treating depression is to raise serotonin levels, which I was quite surprised about. What do you make of that?
Well, it depends. People who are depressed can be low on dopamine or they can be low on serotonin. And so if you give the wrong one, serotonin, to a dopamine person or the wrong way around, you can just make them 10 times worse.
Mm.
So, for instance, there are authors like William Walsh, who has written a book with the symptoms to look for. Is somebody a dopamine person or a serotonin person? And there are types. Some people are sort of depressed, some people are happy, some people are manic, some people are constant. It's easy, relatively, to work out what the person needs by, symptoms include things like, does somebody have a massive libido and wants to sleep with everybody in sight, or are they the opposite? This is a big clue
Okay.
as to what type of brain deficiency, if you like, nutrient deficiency they've got. So
Mm.
William Walsh, it's called nutrient power. He was the guy who over the last 40 years, I interviewed him years ago, fabulous guy. He interviewed every serial killer in America.
Oh, I remember that one. Yeah.
Yeah. And in his research, he found that 70% of violent men in jails have low blood sugar. So they get hangry.
Was low zinc a factor as well?
Yeah, those things as well. Yeah,
Low
exactly.
zinc, and also I believe that something like I'm probably not getting this exactly right, but around 90% of violent criminals are circumcised.
Exactly. Yeah, this was in Norway. They did a
Yeah.
study because most people in Norway are not circumcised. And it
Mm.
just so happened that the ones in jail for violence were,
Mm.
most of them.
Yeah, it's
It's not
fascinating.
surprised if you're abused as a baby, you're not going to trust your mother, you're not going to trust authority figures, and you're going to feel horribly injured for no reason at all.
Mm.
And why are there a lot of misogynists out there? Is it because their mum gave them up to have the end of their penis chopped off?
Mm.
Probably without anaesthetic. I mean, it's
Yeah.
barbaric.
Yeah, I totally agree. Okay, let's move on. Um, I'm I'm going to talk to you about geoengineering, okay? Because I've actually had a change of opinion on this recently.
Mhm.
So for many, many years, I've believed in chemtrails. Geoengineering, I accept, is a real technology. There's no denying that. You can
They've
read.
just flooded the UAE with it.
It looks that way, yes. I would agree with that one. But I've recently done a video with a climate scientist about chemtrails, and this particular climate scientist is a very vocal opponent of the government's net zero policy. So, in a roundabout way, he's one of us. But I think it was about 2 hours, this video, and he showed various cloud formations, various vapor trails, and it turns out that many vapor trails will expand
Well, they
depending.
never used to in the old days.
Well,
I mean, I'm 70. I remember,
um,
and all you got to do is look at children's drawings, 1950, 1960, 1970, 1980, fluffy clouds, fluffy clouds, fluffy clouds, suddenly stripes.
I agree, and so does he. But what he put that down to was the fact that 30, 40, 50 years ago, there was way less air traffic than there is today.
Oh, no. Planes, planes have contrails, it's cold, it's the hot engines, water evaporation. But there were never, unless you were at a fun fair and a plane went over with red stripes or something spraying the sky, jet planes didn't do that. Full stop. But I'll give you another idea. Okay, all the water samples prove that they're dropping shit out of the sky. What if there's information coming from the sun which they don't want you to receive?
Okay.
Information.
Okay.
Maybe.
I get where you're coming from. See, he would explain all these various metallic particles being found and measured at ground level and in the waters. He would put that down to industrial waste being blown from as far off as Asia, India, and China.
Anything's possible. The fact is, the world is in a mess, and it's about time, at the very least, that we stop. I mean, every day I see these planes going over. I mean, these aren't commercial flights, right? They are spraying the skies, and it has to bloody stop. But of course, the pilots who are flying it from a drone controller have been told they're saving the planet, and we mustn't frighten the people by telling them that we're having to save them because it's global boiling.
Yeah. Okay.
I
Sure.
mean, it's a very difficult one. It annoys me, and it's like the ash trees all being cut down. There's a lot of stuff that's going on right in front of our faces, which is outrageous.
Okay. I'm still on the fence, really. He did make a lot of very valid points about this, and I was
Well, look, it's not worth talking about. It really isn't. Let's talk about health.
okay. Fine.
Let's talk about stuff we can do stuff about easily.
Sure. Okay. What haven't we talked about, Clive, today so far? Let's go back to some of your newer products. Did we talk about albidextrin?
No, and this is, let's say somebody's got age spots, brown spots on their skin. What is that? Well, it's a buildup of rancid fats. Maybe they've been eating not as well as they could. So albidextrin is a liquid. I think it tastes really nice. And take a tablespoonful or two of that, and it takes out the rancid fats, cholesterol, but rancid fats of all kinds. It will dissolve and get them out of the body. And a lot of us, I mean, we're all toxically poisoned with bloody everything, quite frankly. And there's a video that I've made about albidextrin, which explains how to know if you might benefit from it, basically. Because there's so many supplements, you can't possibly take a third of them, let alone all of them. So it's trying, if you've got the time to do a bit of research, watch some of the videos. The problem is on the website, we can only say, water gets you wet. We can't say it hydrates you because we haven't done a triple blind study to prove that. But we can say it makes you wet. That's about as far as we can go. And with albidextrin, we can't tell you anything really. But for £1, you can join one section of the Secret Health Club which has supplements revealed, and behind the club for £1, you can watch the video about Harvard if you want, without having to search for it on wherever. So, that's how we've got around it.
Brilliant. Okay. And as a member of the Secret Health Club, I highly recommend it. It's my favourite source of information for natural health. It's absolutely amazing.
Well, today I've been working with my guy, who you spoke to earlier, actually off camera, making it better. So every time we meet up, the aim is what's the really exciting new stuff that we've found, and then go through some of the categories and maybe shuffle a couple off and put a couple of better ones on, that sort of thing.
Fantastic. Okay, Clive, we're past the hour, so shall we end it there?
I think that would be ideal. So great. Thank you so much for having me on, Paul.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Please like and share, everyone, and we'll be back with another episode. Cheers, Clive.
Bye, Paul.